Well, hello, everybody. Owen Sound Poet Laureate for 2019-2021, Richard Sitoski here with another video in our Practice of Poetry series. And you probably noticed that I got my combat relish on because today we're going to be talking about rhythm. And I'll start you off with the military cadence chant. I don't know, but I've been told Sarge's toilet's made of gold. And with any luck, by the end of this video, you'll be able to tell me what meter that's in. So we're going to use as an examination of meter the poem that I wrote, the sonnet that I wrote and described in the My Process video, and it's called Gentrified. Heaven knows I occupied a role. I tried to cook, though I burnt the casseroles. Drove you about, though driving scares me. I followed your lead, watched game shows warily, in a room with no books to read. You kept me clean, white as a condo in a part of town where all the pubs are coming down. The cafes, the bookstores, where what I truly love gets raised, like the record shop no love can save. So yes, it's a sonnet. It's in 14 lines, but you've probably noticed that those lines are all different lengths, and so therefore it does not follow the standard sonnet meter, which, if you remember from high school, is iambic pentameter. So let's take a look at what iambics are, first of all. The iamb, or iambic, is a foot of two syllables. The first one is unstressed, and the second one is stressed. So a good example of that in the English language is the word lacrosse. Put 5 of those together and you get iambic pentameter. The iambic pentameter has a really nice rhythm to it. It's very melodic, it's very musical, and it goes smoothly from beginning to end. And that's actually very, very important. That explains why this meter was such a common one in English poetry long before Shakespeare used it and long after his death. It goes da-dum, 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 da-dum. Notice that heartbeat rhythm kind of going on? So here's Shakespeare from A Midsummer Night's Dream. And they shall fetch thee jewels from the deep. Well, that's gorgeous. And a lot of why that's beautiful just comes from the smoothness of how that flows. But my sonnet is a little different. I like to play around with another foot, another type of meter, and that uses trochees or trochaics. Well, what's a trochee? That's the opposite of an iamb. It's also a foot of two syllables, but the stressed one comes first, dum-da. So, classic example in English is hockey. Now, English is as abounding in trochees almost as much as it's abounding in iambs. So both of these could have been the natural meter for most English poetry. But there's a reason why the iambics got it over the trochaic. And that's because the trochaic rhythm goes dum-da, 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 dum-da. You really bite down on that first syllable. And as a result, you get sort of like an Oktoberfest oompa band kind of rhythm going on, which can be a little bit unsettling in a poem. And it works really, really well, for example, in Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, where we've got our protagonist who's being terrified by this apparition of a raven. And he's in agitation, he's biting down on his words. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting, still is sitting. It's got that insistent quality that, you know, leads to a sound of desperation in the part of on his voice. So what I like to do then is I like to alternate each of these. I like to alternate trochaic lines with iambic lines. The iambic line is a light line, which leads to the heavy trochaic line. And that creates a certain effect in the piece. So the iambic line one of them would be, and this is in the couplet that comes at the end of the poem, where what I truly love gets raised. So that moves us kind of quickly, like the record shop no love can save. And there we've got our trochees, and it's a little bit more staccato, and it kind of brings you up short a little bit. So where What I Truly Love gets raised, there's the speed of demolition in a big city, like the record shop no love can save. And then that kind of chops it up and makes us think a little bit about that record shop. It kind of focuses our attention on the record shop. And you'll notice at the end of that, the second line there that I've got, there's an X. And that's because, yes, it's in trochaic pentameter, but the last syllable has been dropped out. It's just been truncated out. And that's a process called catalexis. You don't need to know it, but I'm just throwing that information out your way. So what we have in that line is trochaic pentameter catalectic. So there you go. That's your cocktail party trivia for the week. Another example of where I use an iamb and a trochee to create an effect in the piece is I tried to cook, though I burnt the casseroles. So I tried to cook. Okay, the attempt goes through reasonably smoothly, but though I burnt the casseroles, now we suddenly have the effects of trying to cook, which is burning the casseroles. So the trochees kind of bring us up short in that little section right there. Or you could flip that around. In a part of town where all the pubs are coming down. In a part of town, trochee focuses our attention on that part of town, and then iambic where all the pubs are coming down. So they're coming down quickly. And that's pretty much what I've got to say about that, except for the fact that if you were following along, you'd notice that the military cadence chant is actually trochaic, and it's in trochaic tetrameter, and the last syllable of that line gets dropped out. So it's actually iambic, trochaic tetrameter catalectic. So there's your second piece of cocktail party trivia for the week. All right. I'd like to thank David Medill, CFP of BMO Nesbitt Burns, and former library CEO Andrew Armitage for the generous support of the Poet Laureate program, and the Poet Laureate Advisory Committee in the Owen Sound and North Grey Union Public Library. I'd like to acknowledge that this video was produced on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the three fires known as the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi Nations. I give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. All right, thanks a lot, and see you for our next video, which is going to be on rhyme. Bye-bye.